And that's Valerie Byrne and the CSL Band, everybody. Thank you. Good morning. Let's take a deep breath and let it go. Do that again. Another deep breath in. Let it go. One more. Breathe in. And so if you don't know me, I am Reverend Elisha Christopher. I am the spiritual director here. I use they and them pronouns, and I also have Irish ancestors. So we're going to celebrate that today. Actually, my Irish family, my last name is actually Irish. It was originally O'Haydon, became Hayden when we came to this country. And the Haydens come from the Hees Valley in Ireland, and the people who lived in the Hees Valley were referred to as the Heathens. So, my people are the original heathens. Which is also kind of funny because when we think about, we celebrate St. Patrick running the snakes out of Ireland, that was us. Because really, St. Patrick was the person who Christianized Ireland, which means he's the one who converted my Irish ancestors from their indigenous religion. Oh. Right? So just a thing to notice what it is we're actually celebrating when we invoke these names. So that's just enough history for you there. What was I going to do today? Oh yeah, let's take another breath. So our theme we're playing with this month is That's How We've Never Done It. And really our conversation we've been having this whole year in our year of Grand Rising is this idea that we are all here to rise up into the people that we are truly meant to be. That we are to make the shifts, the changes, to be part of the conscious evolution that is ready, like brimming here, wanting to happen in humanity. Right? And in order for us to step into where we're going, in order for us to become what we're becoming, in order for us to grow in the direction we're seeking to grow, we probably have to leave some of the that's how we've always done it behind us. And so that's what this whole theme of That's How We've Never Done It is about. What does it look like? What does it mean for each one of us to step into whole new ways of being? Because how we've always done it is what got us to where we are now. Which seems to me, in many ways, to have been enough. So it's time to figure out what is the new way. How do we move into the new chapter, into the new story? And the thing that I've been thinking about this week is that I think in a big way, the big leap for all of us is to live into trust. I got very quiet. What would it look like if we actually lived our lives every single day as if we trusted that there was something greater at work in our lives? And I think first we then have to think about, okay, then what are the things that are bigger than ourselves that we really do trust? I think I trust that the sun is going to rise in the east every day and set in the west. I've come to trust that after every winter there will be a springtime. Right? I've come to trust in the cycles and the seasons of nature, of the universe, of the planet. I know some of us may struggle whether or not we trust this thing called God. It all depends on how we define that. Right? So think for yourself, just for a moment, maybe even close your eyes. What is something greater than yourself that you trust in, wholly and completely? And then what would it look like to live your life if you trusted yourself, if you trusted your gut, if you trusted your intuition, if you trusted your body, if you trusted in the flow as much as you trust whatever this thing is that you were able to say that you trust? right? Because when I trust that the sun will rise and the sun will set, when I trust that winter will turn into spring, it reminds me that there are patterns that I trust in, that there is a greater power, there is a greater energy at work in the world that is keeping things in order. And that even in the minutia of experience, even in the little bits of life, even in the places that are painful and difficult and confusing, those bigger things that I trust in can often be my way out. They can be the way that I can believe that there's something more at work here even when I can't see it. Right? I think I've told this story before, but there was a point in my life where I really struggled with suicidal thoughts, and there was a time when I was in psychiatric care in my early 20s. And there was a nurse in the hospital who said to me, "Never forget that winter always turns into spring." And there I was in this little dark night of my life, this little winter time that I was in, where I really felt like there was no life energy, where there was no hope, where there was nothing that I could look forward to. And for whatever reason, hearing those words, sitting in that place, something sparked, something opened, where I was able to remind myself, oh yeah, there are greater patterns at work here. And even though I feel like I'm dying, even though I feel like I'm in a wintertime, even though I feel like there's no hope, I do know that in the nature of nature there are cycles, and after the darkness there's always light. After the depth there's always a rise. After the fall we always get up. So if I can trust in those basic patterns, then suddenly they become the invitation for me to look for those bigger patterns in the smaller places in my life. Right? And so for each one of us, what does that look like to start to play with trust? And where to place that trust? Because I think many of us have grown up in a world that has educated us not to listen to those voices that maybe we should be trusting all along. Yes. Right? That's the voice of your body. That gut knowledge that each one of us has, that many of us have been trained not to listen to. Right? How many times in our lives have any one of us found ourselves in those moments of difficulty, in those moments of struggle, in those moments of pain that probably could have been avoided if you listened to that gut sense to begin with? If you listened to that deeper intuition, if we listen to that internal guidance. Because each one of us is part of and connected to a something more that knows more than we do. Right? We say in this philosophy, God is all there is. This thing that we are defining as God is consciousness. Within that consciousness, there is an infinite mind. Within that infinite mind, it knows absolutely everything. So then we have to cultivate a practice of listening. We have to cultivate a practice of getting out of our heads and listening to our hearts. Stop listening to the voices out there and start listening to the voice in here. Because when we actually listen to the voice of our heart, the voice of our body, the voice of the earth, the voice of God, it will never steer us in the wrong direction. And it's so often when we don't trust ourselves, we then seek that advice or that information from somewhere out there. And oftentimes that something or somewhere out there doesn't actually know what you need to know. You know what you need to know. And I feel like if we expand this out and look at the conditions of the world in which we live, this is the mega result of a society, a world of people who are not listening. Yes. And who do not trust that which we could and should be listening to. Right? And so, but we're only going to get there by actually getting into a practice of not only listening, but developing that relationship of trust with the universe. However that looks. Part of my game of trust with God is I like to do my little science of mind experiments. which tells me that this philosophy says if I put my mind on something, if I set an intention, if I give myself to it, the universe will respond, it will react, it will interact, and something will take place. And so I have this game that I like to play with the universe where I put out an intention, I put out a prayer, I put out something that I'm seeking to experience, shift, or change, and then when it happens, when it changes, when it shows up, the universe goes, right? And I get those little God winks. I get those little moments where the universe says, I was listening, you were listening, we were listening to each other, something happened, right? And it's a beautiful practice to engage in, to look for the activity of God in your life, to look for the response of the universe. Because when we are actually looking for it, perhaps we then might start to see it. You know, and I get to be in this view of this community where oftentimes I get to know what you're praying for. And then me and the ministers and practitioners here are holding these things in prayer. And then something will come back and something will have shifted, right? So I get to see that feedback loop of how prayer works, of how manifestation happens, right? Earlier this week, as our beloved friend Joy was in her passing, I received a text that says, Joy's in a lot of distress. Could you just please pray and ask the other practitioners to pray for peace? I sent out a message to our practitioners and ministers. All of us stopped and prayed in that moment for peace, for relief of suffering, for all of that. Within 10 minutes, I received a text back from those who were with Joy at the hospital and said she is now at peace and she just woke up. She hasn't been awake for 24 hours. All right? It's those kinds of demonstrations that when something is happening and we stop, we shift our focus, we shift our attention, we shift to a consciousness of prayer, it can be instantaneous. That feedback loop closes, that the miracle happens, that something shifts and changes. And it's when we're in a deep trust that that is actually the case, that our consciousness, that our prayers, that our truth can be the place where that magic is unfolding. Right? But we have to, each one of us, be in a place where we're willing to trust in something bigger. Because this 3.5-pound blob of gray stuff inside of our skulls, does not have all the answers. Okay? But the mind of the universe that is infinite, that is so much greater than my mind or your mind, we are connected to. And in that infinite mind is everything we need to know. And everyone and everything is within that one mind. And so when we actually are able to drop into that space, to trust it, to work with it, to play with it, to be in the beingness of the one with the one, it affects us all interwoven. So this whole conversation we're having this month is just a deeper invitation, really, for each one of us to begin to be in the process of stepping out into our interaction with life in new ways. Right? If you're someone who's always been a planner and has to have the A to B to C to D, how am I going to get there? Maybe throw that away for a day and see where Spirit leads you, right? If you think you know what you need to do for yourself or whatever it is you're working on and you're not happy with where you are, try something new. Try a new way. And also remember that wherever you are, wherever we are all part of greater patterns. We are all part of a greater story. There's something more at work here in the world and in each one of our lives than we can see. Let's begin to trust that there is a greater presence, a greater power, a greater life that is at work here. I trust in the power of evolution. It has been at work for billions of years. It got us here to where we are. I don't think it's going to stop now. And oftentimes, in evolution, there are crisis points. There are points where things really get glitchy and stop working and get painful, and we struggle through how to move to where we're going, but what happens is that leads us to a great leap forward. Right? Dr. King told us that the arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. Can we trust that? Can we? But we all then also have to remember that we can trust in that, but we are also the way that it works. We are also the way that it happens. So I can trust that there's a greater arc, that there's a greater story, that evolution is at work, but then the invitation is to be the place where it's happening. Right? So that each one of us then becomes the activity of God. We become the activity of evolution. We become the activity of justice. Because we're trusting in a higher principle, we live our lives in service to it. And as we live our lives in service to it, we bring that principle into realization, into actuality, into the world. So that's what we're doing. Take a deep breath in. Let it go. Take another deep breath. Let it go. And as we breathe together, I remind us that there is something greater than we are that is breathing our bodies. I trust in this presence that is breathing me, that is beating my heart. There is something greater than we are, greater than our conscious awareness that is living and breathing in, through, and as each one of us. We are in these bodies, but we are not these bodies. There is something greater at work here, and it is living us. Let's just breathe ever deeper into that. Realizing that each one of us is the result of and the process of evolution. That each one of us is part of a story that has been unfolding here on this planet for all of time. That infinite life is truly coursing through us. So let us just open right here and right now to remember that there is a power for good in this universe that is greater than we are. It shines the sun, it spins the planet, it holds the galaxies in their perfect orbit, it drives evolution, it beats our hearts, it breathes our bodies. The one life that brings us the seasons, that rotates the sun around the planet, is the same life that is at work in our lives, is the same life that is at work here on this planet. It is one life, one power, one presence, one beingness that is everyone, everything, everywhen, everywhere, all the time. I call it God. I claim it. I know it. Let us trust that there is a power greater than we are that we are working with, that is living through us. And then to remember that each one of us are the unique, individualized ways that the allness of this infinite being is expressing itself into the world. Can we trust that the thing that is breathing us, that the thing that is beating our hearts will tell us what to do next? Can we trust that that infinite mind will not lead us wrong when we ask it where to go? Can we trust that the power of evolution that has been evolving all of existence for some 14 billion years is going to keep doing what it's been doing all along? And that we are part of a process of expansion, we are part of a process of growth, we are part of a process that is bringing about more and newness into the world. So let's be a people right here and right now today who declare that we trust the flow of life. We trust the universe. We trust that life that is living us. We trust that divine infinite mind. And then let our lives be the activity of that. Let us walk in the world. Let us listen. Let us speak. Let us be and do as if we trusted that each one of us was being led, that we were being guided, that we were being pulled towards something more. Ernest Holmes says that there is a presence that goes before me that makes the way easy and clear. It tells me what to do, when to do it, when to act, and how to act. Let us declare that each one of us is being led by something greater, that there is a path unfolding before us, and it is easy and clear, and that path leads us to the highest possible destination for ourselves and for all of life. And so in that, we can then be in gratitude that there is a something more at work here. We can be in gratitude that we are being carried by life. We can be in gratitude and celebration that there's something bigger than us that we can trust in. Which also means that we can let go a little bit. We can exhale as we breathe in. And remember that when we work with the power that is at work in everything, the things that are in front of us might open up, feel a little bit easier. Let us stop pushing and allow ourselves to be pulled towards where we are meant to go. And so with that, I just let it be, inviting us once again to breathe in and breathe out, knowing that that which is breathing you will breathe right back in. And let it be. And so it is.